Hello, this is Pete. Welcome to the EmpowerCast iWork series, Keynote for Beginners, Episode 2. In this episode, we're going to cover rulers, grid lines, guides, and sizing. In Episode 1 of the Keynote for Beginners series, we covered various themes that are available, and we also covered the very important slide size selector in the lower right corner. For this demonstration, I'm going to use 1920 by 1080. I'm going to choose black as the theme for my demonstration. So, like we covered in Episode 1, as soon as the canvas is available, my first step is always to go to the Zoom pull-down menu in the lower left corner and make sure that my canvas is set to Fit in Window. I want to make sure I can see the entire canvas before I get started on my project. There, once my entire canvas is visible, for the sake of this demonstration, I'm just going to go ahead and delete the default text boxes that are on the screen. To get started with our project, I'm just going to paste a few elements onto the canvas so we can start examining the grid lines. So here I have two independent elements, and as you can see, if I click and drag one of the elements, a blue grid line appears intermittently throughout the canvas as I drag. You'll also notice that in certain areas, yellow grid lines appear as I'm dragging the element throughout the canvas. To get a better understanding of the Keynote infrastructure and how these very useful tools work, we're going to pull down the Keynote menu and choose Preferences. For this episode, we're going to focus on rulers. The Rulers Preferences pane is broken into 4 quadrants, the first being ruler units. In the ruler units pull-down menu, we can choose from pixels, centimeters, or inches. I like to keep it on pixels. If it were intended for print, where I was dealing with actual paper media, inches would probably be more useful. For instance, when I use Pages, I use inches instead of pixels, because Pages is typically designed for print. So I'm going to use pixels as my ruler units, and place origin at center of ruler, and display ruler units as percentage will be explained in a moment. Master grid lines are grid lines that appear in master slides, and they're also grid lines that appear intermittently throughout the canvas. You can choose to show these master grid lines by default, we have 10%. You could change that to 25, 50, or whatever works for you. Same goes with vertical grid lines. You can change this to whatever percentage you want to break up your canvas into. Alignment guides are guides that appear relative to other objects on the canvas. I'll explain alignment guides in a moment. And object spacing and sizing are indicators that appear relative to other objects as well. So let's examine how those work. We'll be referring to the Preferences pane frequently throughout this demonstration. So for now, I'm going to close it, and then we'll come right back to it in a minute. So in my canvas, if I pull down the View menu, I can choose Show Rulers, or use the keyboard shortcut, Command R. So using Command R, I'm going to show rulers, and you see now across the top and left side of the canvas, I have a visible ruler with tick marks and numerical coordinates. I'm going to open the Preferences pane so we can see the various ways which we can change the display of the ruler. So we have ruler units set to pixels, and I can go ahead and change that to inches. And now you can see how inches varies from pixels. I'm going to leave display ruler units as percentage unchecked, because I kind of like to see the pixel measurement here and not a percentage. Another ruler units option is place origin at center of ruler. So 0 on the ruler starts here in the center. If we uncheck that box, then 0 starts in the upper left-hand corner. For this demonstration, I'm going to stay on pixels and move on to master grid lines. I'm going to leave it at 50 pixels so you can see how that behaves when we get back to the canvas. Then we've got alignment guides, which give us the option to show guides at object center and show guides at object edges. Then we've got object spacing and sizing, which is show relative spacing and show relative sizes. Now I want to demonstrate the master grid lines section. A navy blue line will appear while I'm dragging any element at every 50 pixels. So if I grab this logo and begin dragging it, every 50 pixels grid lines appear. If we change that option to display ruler units as percentage, then that changes it so every 10% of the canvas, grid lines appear. Now for the average user, that's a lot of grid lines appearing and disappearing as I drag an element around the canvas. In fact, I typically choose to uncheck the Show Horizontal and Show Vertical Grid Lines. If I have alignment guides turned on, and alignment guides are set to show guides at object center and show guides at object edges, now when I drag an element, you'll see when I hit the center of the canvas, it gives me a grid line showing me that I've now centered that object on the canvas. And it also locks in place a little bit, so I can't really move it until I pull it off of that center grid line. Now I want to show alignment guides as they apply to various elements on the canvas. So I have this blue badge here with text inside of it, and I have the EmpowerMac logo, which if I click and drag, I'll also see alignment guides showing me that the EmpowerMac logo is lined up with the center of the blue badge. Or if I pull that to the right, you'll see an alignment guide to the left showing that the left side of the blue badge and the left side of the EmpowerMac logo are aligned. We'll try it with the right side as well. You can choose to show guides at object center only, or you can also choose show guides at object edges. And now the object spacing and sizing quadrant of the ruler's preferences pane allows us to show relative spacing and show relative sizes. So for that demonstration, I'm going to create a few shapes on the canvas. I can demonstrate alignment guides again by grabbing a shape and bringing it towards another shape, and you see they begin to align with one another. And I see those guides snap to show me that they're aligned. I'm going to grab the third shape, and now I see that all three shapes are aligned horizontally. To verify that they're spaced evenly, I can grab the third shape and begin to move it closer to the other two. You'll notice when the distance between the three shapes match, I'll get a yellow indicator that pops up. Let me demonstrate. This shows that there's 194 pixels between each of the three elements on the canvas. If I were to move one to the left, that indicator goes away. So if I decide that this is more appropriate spacing, then I can leave that second element spaced where it is, and when I move the third element over, an indicator pops up telling me when they're the same distance away from one another. This feature is called Show Relative Spacing. If I select all three of these objects, and the spacing begins to match the spacing of the other two elements on the canvas, I get an indicator, as you see here, showing me that there's 97 pixels between each of these elements. The last option to examine is Show Relative Sizes. This is important for creating uniform sizes of elements on your canvas. So for instance, I'm going to bring a circle onto the canvas, and notice if I drag that circle, I get indicators of the relative spacing. So this will tell me, aha, that's a perfect 100 pixels. But if I resize that object, it also gives me relative sizing. Notice some of the indicators that are available to me. For instance, this 190 indicator has appeared, basically telling me that that circle object that I just resized to 190 pixels matches the height of the EmpowerMac logo. You can see now it indicates 263 pixels, which is the same height as the blue badge. So relative sizing gives you indicators showing you that a particular element on your canvas is the same size or similar dimension to other elements on your canvas. I hope the EmpowerCast iWork series Keynote for Beginners Episode 2 helped you to get your canvas set up and ready for a dynamic presentation. This is Pete from EmpowerMac. I want to thank you for tuning in. Please subscribe, rate, and leave me a comment. Your feedback is always appreciated.